Modern.
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 We're prepping for a voyage.
Modern.
The force of an old-fashioned equals whiskey mass times bitters acceleration.
Why don't you make that a double?
Modern bar cart.
What's shaking, cocktail fans? Welcome to episode 172 of the Modern Bar Cart podcast. I'm your host, Modern Bar Cart CEO Eric Kozlik. Thanks for joining us for another interview episode where we track down the best and brightest minds in the spirits and cocktail world so that we can share their secrets with you. This time around, I have the great pleasure of interviewing Bertha González Nieves. She's the co-founder and CEO of Casa Dragones Tequila, a brand that's focused on creating delicious small batch tequila and leading the charge when it comes to innovation in the agave spirits category. We'll talk about what all that means in just a moment, but first, let's give you the chance to make yourself a drink. This episode's featured cocktail is the Micheloma. To make it, you'll need 1.5 ounces of Tequila Casa Dragones Blanco, which is, of course, their Blanco expression, 3/4 ounce of Cynar, 1/2 ounce of grapefruit juice, and 4 to 6 ounces, or roughly half a can or bottle of your favorite lager. In a cocktail shaker, combine the Blanco tequila, Cynar, and grapefruit juice, and shake vigorously over ice for about 15 seconds until the ingredients are properly mixed and diluted. Then strain into a pint or highball glass with a salted rim, top with about, again, that half bottle of your favorite Mexican lager, and enjoy. This cocktail was developed by bartender Pablo Pasti at the bar Licoreria Limantur in Mexico City. And in case you're not familiar with this mashup of a cocktail, it's basically a funky herbal cross between a michelada and a paloma. The paloma, of course, is a combination of grapefruit soda and tequila, and the michelada is a beer tail that inhabits the Bloody Mary universe. Here's why I think the Micheloma is such a savvy spin-off of both these cocktails. First, we have the Cynar coming out of left field. It's not neither the Paloma or the Michelada, not even a little, but I think what it's doing here is saying, hey, you're missing some sugar from the grapefruit soda, so I'm gonna bring some sweetness to the game, but it's gonna be balanced by vegetal herbal bitterness and complexity. Also, if we're taking the tomato juice out of the Michelada, I think it's only fitting that we have some vegetable matter in there, courtesy of the artichoke in the Cynar. Second, we need to keep in mind that beer tails generally act different than cocktails, for the most part. But if you've ever done that thing where you squeeze an orange slice into your favorite German Hefeweizen, I don't think it's a stretch to dump some grapefruit juice into your Mexican lager. It makes complete sense, at least to my palate. So, now that you've got a delicious fusion drink to make for your next brunch date, let's turn our attention back to the interview. In this delicious conversation and spirits tasting with Bertha González Nieves of Casa Dragones Tequila, some of the topics we discuss include how Bertha came to small batch tequila by way of a company we've all heard of, Groupo Jose Cuervo. She talks about her time working with one of the world's largest purveyors of agave spirits and how it launched her into her current venture. What it means to be certified as a Maestra Tequilera, and why this trade certification is particularly special in Bertha's case. Then, to my great delight, we jump right into the Casa Dragones portfolio. The marks that we taste through in order are their Blanco Tequila, their innovative Joven expression, and then finally their barrel blend. Of course, I provide nosing and tasting notes, but we also get pretty granular speaking about the production methods for each spirit. We cover the mineral profile of the Mexican Trans-Volcanic Belt, the process of blending aged and unaged agave distillates to create a new product altogether, and even the art of selecting barrels using Sessile oak, which is different from traditional Limousin French oak. Some of the things I really enjoy about Bertha are her passion for the agave spirits community at large and her respect for that balance that always seems to come up when we talk about mezcal and tequila, the respect for tradition that must be weighed against the natural and, in my opinion, valuable impulse to innovate. As a closing remark, I will say this. I spend probably more time in the mezcal space than the tequila world, but I've had my fair share of tequilas. Without a doubt, the Casa Dragones lineup is one of the most compelling trios of agave spirits to reside under one roof. There are some truly special flavors in these bottles, so if you're looking for that special purchase for a holiday gift or as a way to really treat yourself, I'd certainly recommend upgrading your bar to include Casa Dragones tequila. With that, please enjoy this fun and flavorful conversation with Bertha González Nieves. Bertha, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Eric. Excited to be here tonight.
So before we jump in to the beautiful tequila that we have here in front of us, could you, for our listeners, just explain a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur in the spirits industry, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Casa Dragones. I'm from Mexico City, and I fell in love with the category in my early 20s. And I've been, dealing with this agave love affair since then. It's been 12 years since I founded my own company. And we founded Casa Dragones with the objective of actually being part of the tequila producers that are pushing the conversation of tequila production into the future and using modern and sustainable processes to deliver the highest possible quality while truly surprising the tequila lover with expanding that tequila repertoire in terms of taste. So we feel very lucky every day to have the opportunity to dedicate ourselves to what we love, and also more lucky when we have the chance to actually present our products and people actually fall in love with them.
I have had the pleasure of having some really, really excellent conversations about agave spirits on this podcast so far with people like Lou Bank from Sacred Agave and his partner Chava Periban from the Agave Road Trip podcast. And one of the things that we always end up talking about is that balance between tradition and innovation in agave spirits. It seems like that is one of the most important lines that you need to tread. You need to strike a very specific balance in that. So I'm very excited to talk about, of course, both the tradition and the innovation that is going on in the agave community at large, and then, of course, with Tequila Casa Dragones in particular. But I would love if you could give our listeners a little bit more of your background, because you actually, before founding your current brand, worked for some pretty big brands, and I was curious to hear a little bit about that experience and how it planted the seed for what you're doing right now.
So after I got selected by the Japanese government to represent Mexico in a program in Japan and had the opportunity to fall in love with the category, I decided that I wanted to dedicate my career to the tequila industry. So I went and knocked on the doors of the industry and ended up working for the Beckman family that at that time owned Cuervo, 1800, and many other brands of tequila. And the history of that company is really pretty much the history of tequila in its own way. So I really had the opportunity to fall in love with the industry from within. And what I learned from there was, the love of the craft. And I can't tell you, I was there for more than a decade, and I have so much respect for them from what they've done with the category and also what they've done as a family. But really, it kind of gave me the opportunity to continue to be curious about the category, learning every day about the category, until the day that came that I decided that I really wanted to do my own versus actually producing someone else's. But what it gave me kind of like the foundation of the breadth of what can be done in the category, because they produce so many different styles of tequila and brands that it really gave me the opportunity to admire their principles and the history of the company, but also have the opportunity to learn from within. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. What did you do day to day? Did you hold a number of positions with the company so that you were able to experience that breadth and scope of the category, or were you sort of in one specific aspect of the market?
No, I mean, I held 5 different positions while I was there. So I changed positions every 2 years, and that really gave me the opportunity to really be curious about a lot of different aspects of the business
Yeah.
until I realized that I have more of a heart of an entrepreneur than not. So that's when I decided to actually go on my own.
It's interesting to me that you say that you fell in love with the industry from within, because in many cases, I find that that's where people are spoiled, where the industry is spoiled for some people. So, for example, you go into a high-end restaurant and at the end of a shift, you see the chef eating junk food as opposed to the 3 Michelin star food he has been preparing for his guests for the entire evening, for example. I'm curious, what about the tequila or agave industry in general you happen to fall in love with that triggered that entrepreneurial realization in you?
You know, tequila is really so much part of the social fabric of Mexico, and the way that I just really truly fell in love with the professionalism and dedication that I found in the craft. You know, that has nothing to do with corporations. It has to do with the passion of people and what they do for the business. And I really think that that's the common glue that puts the spirits industry together. So for me, it was more about the individuals that made this industry what it is, rather than, anything else. And I think for me, that was the biggest attraction. It's about, the industry, most all industries, but at least I can speak for my own. It's about people. And that's, where I learned so much from, and what I'm more attracted to.
Yeah, it certainly helps if you're able to go into work and enjoy the atmosphere as opposed to just the task that you're doing. And as somebody who certainly shares the entrepreneurial spirit that you have, I'm curious about how you were able to transition from a career in corporate tequila to one where you were starting your own brand from the ground up. So can you tell us the story of Casa Dragones and how you built the brand starting in the early days? And then, of course, we have a few specimens that we're going to get into here in a few minutes to find out exactly where we stand today.
So the whole idea or dream of becoming an entrepreneur was because we wanted to produce the best possible product we could do. And that was part of the experience, we were at the very least, if we get the chance to produce the best, live our dream through our product, we're going to get our yayas out. So it started with one product, and it started with Casa Dragones Joven, which is the first product we brought to market. And the idea of this product was to, and continue to be, a tequila that actually proves that tequila can compete with other sipping spirits, like cognacs and single malts and whiskeys, but also can pair well with food, whether it's Mexican, Italian, Japanese, French, and so on. So this product really enabled us to establish ourselves. So this is the heart of who we are as a producer. We started with we really wanted to be intellectually and academically and from a taste profile very different. And we thought if we can do one product and we can do it really well, we really have a chance of becoming someone in our own category. So we just went for it. And we did this for the first 5 years of the existence of Casa Dragones. And it continues to be our pride and joy. It's a more complex, more intellectual product, but it really the combination of a white, a 5-year-old extra aged tequila, enabled us to really deliver a very unique taste profile in the category that enabled us to ourselves in the tequila industry.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. I've had these bottles for a few weeks now. They've been sitting on my shelves, taunting me, asking me, begging me to taste them. I have not. I've resisted because I wanted my reactions on this podcast to be honest and completely, uninformed by anything. I just nosed it, the Joven, and it's incredible. I can't wait to jump into it with you. But one thing I think you may be omitting is a bit of a first that you have kind of pioneered for women in the tequila industry, and I think that some of that underpins this product and the other products in the Casa Dragones portfolio, and that you are the first Maestra Tequilera in Mexico. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What was that process like?
For me, the process was I had already been 12 years in the tequila industry. And one of my partners, who is my mentor, and the other Maestro Tequilero in Casa Dragones, who's Benjamin Garcia, he told me, why don't you get your title? And I was like, I'm like an entrepreneur. I'm raising capital. I'm like building my company. I'm flying the plane while I'm building it. And I said, Benjamin, do you think do I look like I have time to go right now and get a title of some sort? He's like, just don't be so stubborn. Just go call them and see, if they will take you. So I called them and they said, listen, yeah, we will consider your years in the industry and you can apply and so on. So I did it and I got my title. I didn't know I was the first woman. Then I had a press interview and they told me, go and call and ask them how many women is there. And then they told me, what do you mean? You were the first one. I didn't know that. That was not my intention. But I'm proud of that because I really want to make sure that this industry, all industries are not, they're for the people that are curious about the industries. They're not gender specific. They're curious specific. They're professionally specific. So I'm excited about what's to come, and I'm excited about living when you're running relays, right? I feel like I'm just running a relay. And I feel like I'm going to get as far as I can, and then I'm going to leave that relay for the next generation, whether female or male, it doesn't matter. It's more about how far can we take the appellation of origin of tequila? How far can we actually go? How far can we prove the world that tequila can actually, compete with any other spirit in the world? That is kind of like what I'm after.
I think that's a really healthy mindset for the industry. It's not a selfish mindset whatsoever. One follow-up question about the Maestra/Maestro Tequilera designation or title. It seems like they were able to consider your years spent in the industry with Cuervo and the other brands that you worked for. Were there any other aspects, like if someone
I had to do an exam, I had to study, I had to pass a test, I have to do other things.
Got it. That must be sort of a really nice thing to have in your back pocket as you're doing all those things. Like you said, does it look like I have time for this? I'm raising capital. I'm creating our brand materials. I'm developing market strategies. It seems like having that knowledge in your back pocket, even if it's, even if you didn't need it personally to be formalized in the way that it was, it seems like a really great asset to have on your side as you are developing this portfolio of products that, as you say, is supposed to be a little bit more intellectual, a little bit different than most tequilas on the market. It seems like a differentiator while trying to pitch your differentiated product. So I think I think it's a great story. I think it makes a lot of sense to me. And one of the things that strikes me about your products is that when I take them out of their beautiful boxes and regard their beautiful packaging and nose them as I have with your Joven, they make a lot of sense even though I don't know the story. And so I would love for you to maybe assuming that the Joven is the first one we should taste here, maybe we should jump into a tasting, and then you can tell a little bit of the brand story of Casa Dragones and what you're trying to kind of accomplish in the consumer's consciousness as we enjoy these spirits.
Yeah, so we can start with Joven. I'm using the Riedel Overture tequila glass that we use for professional tastings. This is the actual glass that's actually used today for competitive tastings, and it proves the power of the glass. But so Joven is first of all, it's an overlooked style in the tequila category. You mostly hear about Blanco, Reposado, and Añejo. And this is a blend of a white tequila with a 5-year-old extra aged tequila. And we do the blend, and at the end of the process, we take the color aged tequila out because we learned that in order to pair with food, we had much more permission to do it without color than with color. And we're modern producers. Again, we're trying to push the conversation of tequila production into the future. So we took every risk you can actually on Joven. We did a rare blend. We brought up a style of tequila that is not in the marketplace regularly. And then we actually, the name Casa Dragones comes from this cavalry that masterminded the movement of Mexican independence. So we want to be perceived in the industry as modern and rebellious producers that are really not afraid to go on our own. So Joven actually represents what we're all about. And the idea was to prove that we can compete with other sets, but also we can pair tequila with other cuisines other than Mexican cuisines. So we can actually pair it with Japanese or French or Italian or American cuisine. It's, tequila is not only the lover of Mexican cuisine, it also has a space in other cuisines. And if we can prove that on our journey, we feel like we've done our job, because then there's so many other tequilas that can come after us and prove this with us, because it really has the plant Agave Azul Tequilana Weber, which is a plant that is such a special plant that can produce such special complexity and balance that can actually seduce the palate of top chefs in the world to do very unique pairings.
Yeah, I love the pairing with food idea. I think we'll continue to return to that as we speak about the product here. One of the things that I'm noticing about this is that it does not smell as one would expect a tequila to smell. And I imagine that has a great deal to do with obviously the blending process with the Blanco with the aged tequila, and then the filtering out of the color seems somewhat secondary in terms of the aroma. Certainly the color is very important to that. But
so what we're trying to do with the experience of taste, we're trying to push out the experience of, we're really trying to take out the alcohol notes out and push the complexity that the plant has to offer to the front of the experience of taste. But that, I cannot really acknowledge that to be, the process we're following or the quality of the agave that we have. It's like it's a conjunction of factors that enable us to get there, to deliver something actually that what we're trying to do is we're trying to get people to actually sip and savor. The name Sipping Tequila is on the label right there. It says Sipping Tequila. Mm-hmm. And that is because we want you to give us a chance to sip and savor. We want you to give us a chance to actually take a moment to enjoy what we've been able to produce.
Yeah, and it's certainly, I mean, not only is it a beautiful bottle, but I just took my first sip here, and it is remarkable in terms of, I would say, the difference between the nose and the palate. I always secretly enjoy spirits where the nose and the palate offer different things that you can kind of consider one beside another. And for me, on the nose, the Joven was incredibly grassy with this really dense core that went beyond grass almost to fruit. I can't do a better job describing it than that right now, unfortunately, because I don't have too many food words. But it is certainly, it's a deep green nose. It reminds me something of open fermented cane products. Like it reminds me of some Clarins that I've encountered.
So you're getting the floral and the citrus notes of the Blanco Tequila, balanced with the sweetness and the spice of the extra aged tequila. So this is like this love affair of two styles, but neither one of the styles is governing the experience. It's, when you are using an aged tequila and a Blanco Tequila, it's very easy to let one or the other lead the experience. This is really about letting them, come together to give you this very unique taste experience. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to expand the tequila repertoire through taste and quality. We want, if everybody's here, we want to be here. We want to be over here. So, we just really want to continue to convince a tequila lover that tequila has so much to offer.
Yeah, and one of the things similarly on the palate with this, what I get is you get that racy, almost saline minerality from the Blanco, balanced out with the spice from the barrel. And again, I think it's remarkable in that those two expressions don't step on one another, that one doesn't drown the other out. And I think from a consumer standpoint, one of the least known and therefore least appreciated aspects of creating beautiful spirits is the blending of these things. Is there anything special that goes into blending different batches of we can speak specifically about the Joven, but maybe a couple of the other expressions are good examples as well. Because agave, it's an agricultural product. At the end of the day, agricultural products differ from year to year, from place to place. And so in your endeavor to create something that is consistent and that consistently achieves this wonderful balance, what are some of the aspects of production that you need to take into account?
So what you're trying to do as a producer, taste is defined by a bell-shaped curve, right? Anything that falls within that bell-shaped curve is a consistent taste, but there are nuances to it because we're dealing with natural characteristics. So as long as we can deliver a consistent experience, that consistency is not perfect.
Yeah. So you're saying that what you're saying is that there's a distribution, and that what you're trying to do is not hit the same single point in that distribution every time. It's that you're trying to communicate to consumers that when they pick up your product off the shelf, it is going to fall within that range.
Well, you will always feel it's like what you're finding that you're buying for. And the idea as producers is that we want to make sure that we're delivering for you like a consistent experience. But you can talk to me or you can talk to any other spirit producer. Consistency is within a parameter. Mm-hmm. And I think in a way, we're so far away from production processes, as consumers. So I think that as long as we're delivering something within nature that you can actually deliver to consumers, I think that it's fine. Yeah, I think that, well, at least that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, and obviously it's been working out rather well if the bottle in front of me is any indication. So, yeah, and you're right. I mean, before we move on, I would like to speak with you a little bit about the classification of Joven in tequila, because it is a term that we find in the mezcal space quite often. Can you explain why we don't see it as often in the tequila space?
The only way I can answer this question is that everybody has been so focused on doing Blanco, Reposado, and Añejo. They've been so laser focused that's why you have not seen any exploration.
It makes sense.
Now, the other thing is like if you are branching out of what you see on the shelf, is taking a risk, right?
Yeah. Well, in that respect, it's obviously a great product to use to set the tone of your portfolio. As you said, this was the single product for quite a while.
When you go out of the realm of like what people know, you have to really commit to it, to explaining why. So I think that not everybody wants to do that.
It's difficult, right? You put in, you have to put in more work, and sometimes that's scary. I mean, to me, the Blanco Reposado Añejo lineup makes intuitive sense. It's the rule of threes. Three makes sense to people. It's the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. It is, it's a sacred number, and it feels right. And yet we still have three spirits that we're tasting here today. They just don't necessarily fit into those specific molds. So knowing that what you started with was this beautiful Joven that kind of bends some of the traditional expectations that we have about tequila, what was the next product that you developed, and how do you think about that in relation to the Joven?
So, many of our clients and our friends were saying like, oh, Bertha, we love your Joven, but you're very strict. We can't serve it on the rocks. We can put it in the freezer. We can't do a margarita, like all these things. And so that's when we thought that right next step for us was to actually go back to the drawing board. And we thought that the right next step for us was to expose the purity of our agave and our soil and our water, and expose that as our next step as a producer, right? We're trying to tell a story. So for us to bring a Blanco that is very herbaceous, very green, very pure, that was our ambition. And it really came out of the trade that we decided to go on that direction. So that's where our Blanco came along.
Yes, I'm nosing it for the first time right now, and it's certainly it's more subtle on the nose than the Joven. We those. It's funny when I was nosing the Joven, the barrel notes to me didn't come out until you kind of explained them, and then I was able to say, okay, oh yeah, there's the sweetness, there's the vanillins, in conjunction with the grassiness. But now that I taste the Blanco, it's just like, it's so much drier. It's so mineral. It's so, it doesn't have a fresh cut grass quality to it because it's not, there's no grass.
But it's herbaceous. It's very green.
Both of these expressions are so unique in their aromas, and I wonder if this might be the appropriate time for you to speak a little bit about the terroir of the agave that you use. Is there any, obviously this is tequila, so you're, as you mentioned, using the Blue Weber agave, but is there anything about the sourcing, the cultivation, the atmospheric or meteorological conditions that make your stuff special?
Of course. So within the appellation of origin, there's 5 states where you can actually harvest agave azul tequila Weber. So you have Jalisco, which 80% of the land designated for the appellation of origin falls on the state of Jalisco. But then you have Michoacán, Nayarit, Guanajuato, and Tamaulipas. So what's really amazing about this is not only about the agave, it's about the water. In every single bottle that you see, there's 40% tequila, 60% water. The water is such a main actor in the novella that it's important to talk about the water, because we have access to natural aquifers that come from the volcano of tequila. And we have the opportunity to actually treat that water to give it the right mineral profile to harmonize our tequila. And, I don't know, I'm really proud of about that. And everybody shows up with their Blanco. Everybody shows up with their Blanco. It's like a thing, it's like a black belt thing in karate. You show up with your Blanco Tequila. So it's very green, very herbaceous, very pure, very beautiful, and very different. We wanted to make sure that we had the same relationship we have with chefs, we have with mixologists, where you find these like very beautiful Blanco Tequila that can hold its own, neat, but also can actually perform really well in signature cocktails. And it really has to do with a terroir. We are right at the heart of the Mexican Trans-Volcanic Belt in Tequila, Jalisco. We're more about the richness of the soil, the semi-arid and semi-humid combination of soil in that region that's filled with obsidian rock, that's volcanic soil that really has silicium, potassium, phosphorus, and many other characteristics that are critical for our business. And we're all about the details and less about the volume production, Our batches are no larger than 500 cases per batch. And we are here to please the lover. And that's what we do on a regular basis. And we're going to try and do that as long as we can.
Yeah. I think in the American consciousness, at least, people do not tend to regard Mexico as a particularly volcanic region. We think of places on, the Pacific coast of the United States. We think of, the Ring of Fire around the Pacific. We think of, some places in the Mediterranean. But we don't tend to think of Mexico as a particularly hot spot for volcanic activity, and yet there's such a long history of that happening. So I think that's just bad marketing for what it's worth, because there is a great deal of volcanic activity there, and obviously that lends itself to incredibly unique soil, and as you mentioned, the aquifer plays into that. When I nose this tequila, I get this beautiful floral note as well. It's not quite a marigold, but it's somewhere between a marigold and a white flower that I can't remember the name of. There's something really beautiful and delicate about it, and yet, when you taste it, it's one of those experiences where the palate and the aroma, they inform one another, but they're certainly very different. What do you tend to communicate to folks when they taste this Blanco expression?
Well, I mean, this Blanco expression celebrates. It's very herbaceous, very green, very fresh, which is very much mirror to the agave plant. It's like it celebrates all the beauty of the pureness of these incredible plant, and we hope that we can seduce the palates of all these tequila lovers. With that, for us, it's really more about like what we can do with our passion and our dedication. We're really working for, in my heart, I may be wrong and you may disagree, but we're working for the people that love tequila.
Well, you've certainly seduced me into wanting some oysters right now. Is that an uncommon pairing with this Blanco?
Not at all. So the Blanco with the oysters is really special. My father used to love oysters, so we used to have a journal, and where we took notes about the oysters from all over, like the Americas. And I think that the Blanco with oysters has a very special, you have like the shininess and you have like the mineralness of the oysters, then blended with a tequila is really special. But again, it's all about like where you are geographically and what you can get from the oysters.
Yeah, I feel like this Blanco is sort of like the Chablis of tequila. It's just this beautiful, like it's minimal in its expression. Obviously, it doesn't have as much going on as the Joven, but it's just bursting with character despite that sort of minimal sort of like we're just giving you what the soil and the weather are giving us expression. And in that respect, I love it. I mean, it's, for listeners, I do need to call out that we are in the premium category here. This is not bottom shelf. This is not middle shelf. This is not craft. This is premium. And, there's a number of quality indicators that we've spoken about so far that to me call that out. Obviously, there's a batch size restriction that you place on yourself, no more than 500 cases per batch. What does that look like in total liters or gallons of production, Bertha?
Well, I mean, 500 cases per batch. The leaders of our category produce 2 million cases. Mm-hmm. So we're little. No, yeah. We're little with a mighty heart. We want to be bigger. We're little with a mighty heart.
A mighty heart and beautiful packaging. Can you speak a little bit about the way that you have decided to put these on the shelves in the beautiful boxes with, the beautiful materials that we have right here that sort of accompany each bottle? It seems so well done, and I'm wondering the path that led you to this particular brand image, and you must love it because it's sitting all right behind you on the screen right now. You have a beautiful display right now. Tell us about it.
Well, Eric, this is what I do for a living, so I'm very proud of it, for sure. I can't tell you I'm not. I think that it's all about the values of what we're trying to communicate for us, as a producer. We are lucky that we get to do what we love, number one. And you can resonate that with me because you are doing this podcast because you love spirits. So I still feel very lucky every day of the week that I can actually do a batch of 500 cases per batch and put it on the shelf. I mean, for me, that's kind of like my special juice. And then the other thing that's really important to us is that we have the chance to innovate. We have the chance to explore. We have the chance to go out there and figure out how can we surprise that tequila lover? What can we do differently? What can we bring to them that has never brought to them before? And that's our commitment.
Well, you've certainly surprised and delighted my palate with the first two expressions that we've tasted here. I'm curious to see what the third and ostensibly barrel aged expression has in store. So would you be willing to walk me through the aged expression,
of course.
the barrel blend? Yes.
So after 10 years of doing our Blanco, first our Joven for 10 years and our Blanco for 5, we really started being curious about what was the next stage for us. And both Benjamin and I started being very curious about aged tequilas. And so COVID was not here yet, thankfully. So we had the chance to travel around the world and interview cooperages in different parts of the world to really understand who had the patience and the dedication to actually go with us on this journey to figure out how we can innovate in the tequila category. So we found this cooperage out of Bordeaux that was not in a hurry at all, that actually we had so much fun. And we found this beautiful forest in the heart of Bordeaux called Sessile wood that is a much less perfumed wood than the traditional French oak. And that most well-known wine producers in France that use Opus One and Chateau Margaux and so on use this actually producer. But for us, it was more about how can we actually bring something different to the table? And it's a blend of a French oak with an American oak that actually led us to bring this very much more drier, more complex, and really beautiful result of an aged tequila to the category. that I think is very different.
It certainly smells different. I'm not willing to taste it just yet because I'd like to get some more details on this oak, right? Because I feel like for a barrel aged product, the selection of the oak, the char of the barrels is sort of the fingerprint that you leave on a product. And based on the first two that we've tasted here, I would expect nothing less than a very precise approach from you. So I'm curious about, obviously there's some color here. It's not, it's certainly not as dark as a bourbon or a scotch, but there is some color here. So I'm wondering if this was charred or toasted, what percentages of the barrels were treated in what ways. You certainly don't have to reveal the entire secret recipe to us, but I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about the color that I'm seeing so that maybe I can trace a path between some of the aroma and flavor notes.
Okay, so put yourself in my shoes for 2 seconds. So we're able to travel around the world, interview all these different cooperages, then like commit to one, do custom made casks for us, custom made, right? We're like a little player. We do casks where we find this like Sessile wood, which is in the heart of Bordeaux, which is like 300 to 200-year-old like forests that are like, this wood is like, it's not too sweet, it's not too tart, it's not too like, it's like the most, I mean, it's such a beautiful wood. And then we like fell in love with this American oak in Missouri and Pennsylvania. So we have these 2 custom made casks that at the end of the process, we actually blend. So after going to all that effort, do you think we want to have an opinion in that color? We were like, just whatever comes out of it, we're going to embrace it. We're so grateful to have the opportunity to actually buy new cask, custom made cask, and then whatever comes out. So this is more like a Chardonnay color.
Exactly. So you're saying that
not a traditional añejo color, which is fine, but it's not a traditional añejo taste either, because an añejo taste is more like vanilla oriented. Mm-hmm. We wanted, in our effort in this exercise, the whole idea was to let the tequila push through the wood rather than the wood push into the tequila.
Right.
So having a really fresh perspective on the taste of an aged tequila was more important than anything else.
So to clarify, this was none of the wood that you aged this in was toasted or charred, correct?
Well, no, we have a little magic in there. There is a toasting. Okay. There is a certain treatment that we're doing to the wood. But what you're getting in the color of the glass is the natural experience of our tequila aged in our custom made barrels. Adding anything. This is it. This is what you're getting. So we thought, why won't we celebrate that?
Sure. No, I wanted to make sure because you know when people see this, they're going to say, well, there's some color on there. There's got to be something. And so I wanted to determine whether this was a very small amount of like char 4 or char 5, or if it was sort of uniform across the board. But it sounds like
no. This is what you're getting.
Yeah.
This is the product we're selling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is beautiful. I think the Chardonnay color is exactly right on for folks who are just listening, and it is like, you know what's interesting to me is almost, it's certainly not exactly what I'm about to say, but when I compare the Joven to the barrel aged product, I think the Joven is almost a little bit richer and sweeter for whatever reason. And so it's super compelling to me because I love dry products. I mean, I do enjoy bourbons. I do enjoy some of the finer aged brandies, but I always find myself leaning further and further in the direction of products that are dry. And this, it's not dry in that it actually physically dries your palate with tannins or polyphenols, but it's dry in that it allows you to simply assess what happens when you take a beautiful tequila and you put it in some beautiful barrels. And I think that's sort of the process that you were describing. Wow, this has been a really compelling tasting session for me. Is there anything else specifically about these products that we've sort of tasted through in succession here that you want to tell our listeners before we cover a couple more questions and then hit the lightning round?
No, just like give us a chance, as you know, give us a chance as producers to go on a tasting journey, and just I think that what's really important is that we're aspiring for more as producers. So if the listeners are curious enough and they're gonna go and try one of our products, I think that we would appreciate them being as curious as we are to kind of like go on the experience of taste.
Yeah, and it's certainly compelling. I mean, one of the things that I forgot to mention before, I got excited about the barrels, but one of the things that I forgot to mention is that, as I nose this añejo expression, I get notes of cedar and, it's a almost, it's not smoky, but it is, it's a very woodsy aroma to me. It's slightly sappy. You taste the life in the wood, not the life that was burned out of the wood, if that makes sense. Vanillins are great, caramels are great. One thing I like to talk about when someone asks me why I'm not so hot on bourbon is it's because it's the same dozen tasting notes that you get every time you taste a bourbon. And I think with tequila, sometimes it can be the same thing. Different category, different tasting notes, but sometimes it can be the same thing. And one of the things that I'm tracing as a through line through this entire tasting experience is that I'm getting different tasting notes on your products than I normally get when I taste a tequila expression. So to the extent that that is exciting to someone, to the extent that someone wants to get excited and order a dozen oysters with the Blanco, or ponder the intricacies of the Joven, or engage with the wood of the añejo, I mean, I think that sort of speaks for itself as a tasting flight, and I couldn't agree more with your approach and just the really compelling products that you put out, because I don't know. I'm not done with any of these. Once we jump off this call, I'm going to continue nosing and tasting them across the evening.
We are betting on you giving us a chance on the experience of taste.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. What I wanted to wrap up with here was a couple questions about premium, because obviously you are in the premium category, and I don't get a chance to speak with a lot of premium producers because I work in the world of craft. I work with people who are producing small batch spirits, but at a quality level where they're sort of experimenting and just getting their feet off the ground, or their feet wet. I'm not quite sure exactly which expression I was going for there, but when you use the word premium, whether it's in marketing materials or whether it's simply just describing a product, it carries with it a certain connotation. And I was wondering if you might speak a little bit, maybe in defense of the premium category of spirits, because that's not the category that has been selling the fastest during the age of COVID. Everyone has been going to their favorite, to their Tanquerays and their favorite sort of mid-level expressions. And I thought this might be a good time to talk about premium, what it means, and why there's value with it.
I mean, I don't know exactly what it means. I mean, my products don't say premium anywhere in the labels. When we describe our products, we just say what we do. And then if we are catalog premium, that's good or not. For us, it's more about craftsmanship and quality. Premium, I mean, it's a big question. What does premium mean? I don't know. Exactly.
I think that's a really healthy mindset to take. That's a wonderful answer. I'm gonna have to think about that, because I think everyone is so in a hurry to define what it means. So our audience is primarily U.S. consumers. Most of I'd say 90% of our listeners reside within the U.S. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. One about where in the U.S., which U.S. markets people can find these beautiful spirits in, and if they do get to pick them up off the shelves, if you have any specific recommendations for the first time you crack open the bottle, whether that is, a dozen oysters with the Blanco or a cigar with the, based on you, probably not a cigar with the Añejo, but you see where I'm going with this.
No, hey, listen, cigar, oysters, whatever you decide to do, give us a chance. Just like the one thing that I want you to give us a chance is just sip and savor. I want you to go on a journey of taste. You give me that chance for 3 seconds about my job is done. I just want to make sure that people see tequila in a different light and enjoy it in the same way we produce it.
Beautiful. So what U.S. markets could someone go to and either request that their favorite liquor store pick up your brand, or just walk into the store and see it on the shelves?
Okay, you will see it in New York, Florida, Illinois, Colorado, Texas, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, even in the control. We have much more distribution than we have. But if you can find it, I'm sorry if I'm not mentioning your state, just send us an email. Go to our website, say, hey, by the way, I'm in the middle of here. No one's talking to me. We'll take care of it.
I like that. That's a very mafioso approach. We'll take care of it.
Well, we'll figure out how to do it. I don't know if I can take care of it, but at the very least, I can actually work on it.
Yeah. No, that's good.
No mafioso here.
Well, that's good. And it's important to listen to the people, obviously. There's actually a lot of beautiful work being done in control states by people and groups of people who really care about spirits. So, even if you do live in a control state like Virginia, like Pennsylvania, there's still things that you can do to make sure that you're getting the spirits that you want. It might take a little bit more time, a little bit more effort, but you can get the spirits that you want. So, Bertha, I want to thank you again for, first of all, producing these beautiful spirits, and second of all, walking me through the tasting this evening as we record. Anything else you want to tell our listeners before we do a few quick lightning round questions?
No, I just want to thank you, Eric, for your passion for the spirits industry, for inviting me to be part of this, and I'm ready for your questioning.
All right, let's get to it. What is your favorite cocktail? And if you don't have a favorite cocktail of all time, what's something that maybe you're more recently obsessed with?
Okay, so there is one cocktail right now called Curva Peligrosa, which is kind of like dangerous curves, That's the name of the cocktail, by Jenna Wolfson, which is 1 ounce of Casa Dragones Añejo, half an ounce of GM VSOP rum, one fourth of Toki Japanese, half an ounce of Elisa Craig bourbon, and 1 bar spoon maple syrup, 8 drops of house-made pumpkin bitters, probably yours, hopefully. That's one. And then they have another cocktail that I love and adore, which is called the Micheloma, which is a michelada en a paloma by Pablo Pasti, which is a Argentinian Mexican bartender. It's kind of cool, michelada and paloma together is kind of fantastic. So yeah, obviously with Casa Dragones Blanco, otherwise I wouldn't like it that much.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So is my one question there is so it's a paloma is grapefruit and sparkling water and tequila and a little bit of sweet, and then the michelada is beer and then tomato juice. So are all of those ingredients in there somehow, and he just perfects the ratios?
Well, we're gonna have to call Pablo Pasti.
Yeah,
because I know my craft. I'm a tequila producer. I'm not really a great mixologist. So I think I don't know, with the Micheloma, it says, I'm not really sure. We should call him.
Okay. We'll do some digging on our end, and we'll see if we can get that recipe. That's That sounds like a fantastic fusion cocktail. So next question, if you were a cocktail ingredient, what would you be and why?
Tequila.
Okay. Blanco, Joven, or Añejo?
Hmm. Do I have to choose?
No, I suppose not.
No. Yeah.
Okay. You're just the spirit of tequila.
Yes, I am.
All right. I love it. If you could have a cocktail or a glass of one of your beautiful tequilas with anyone in the world, past or present, who would it be? Where would you go? What would you drink? Just paint us a picture.
Well, the recent elections have really left a mark on me. So I would love to have a drink with Kamala Harris. And I want to ask her, what are we going to do for female in the beverage industry?
Mm-hmm. Does she have any connection to the beverage industry? I'm
I
not
don't
quite
know.
familiar. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
do.
certainly a timely thing. Most people, when I ask that question, tend to dig up someone who is long since dead and buried. But I always am more fascinated by the people who choose living
she's
people.
of the time, and I'm interested in today. So yes, I want to talk to her.
Yeah, fantastic. So to wrap up the lightning round here, do you have any controversial views or beliefs in the spirits and cocktail space?
Well, I do believe that I'm trying to prove my case about tequila being able to pair well with food, not only Mexican food, which we know works well, but also like French, Italian, and Japanese cuisine. Me, it's like I'm gonna prove that every day of the week. I'm gonna just go on my journey, and hopefully I have more life than cases, so that I can actually prove that.
Yeah, I had to pick up the Blanco as you were saying that. Are there any recent food pairings that you felt really just hit the mark perfectly?
So many, chef's interpretation of what we do, it gives life to what we do. So I can't even tell you like one or two or three. It's more about letting the chefs actually, or the sommeliers actually give life to what we do. So I don't want to pigeonhole what we're doing. It's more about being curious and enabling the people that define taste guide us.
Yeah, well, I will go where you won't and just say get some damn oysters with this Blanco tequila. It is just screaming for brine and a little bit of citrus, and I'm gonna have to get some oysters this weekend and celebrate this beautiful spirit myself. So for anyone who's looking for a place to start, that is it. I don't care if you don't like oysters. You will like oysters if they're with this tequila. So Bertha, thank you so much for, again, being on the podcast. Can you just share with our listeners how to get in touch with your brand digitally, whether that's via email or a website, and of course on social media?
So you can get in touch with Casa Dragones at Casa Dragones, at Casa Dragones, or you can get in touch with me directly at Bertha González N. No, it sucks. It's the worst name ever. But it's at Bertha, Bertha González N. Yeah, that's my name.
Okay.
And if you can't remember that, just contact Casa Dragones. They'll tell you where to go. So thank you for being here with us tonight. And thank you for supporting our industry. It means a lot to us. So Eric, keep on doing what you're doing. We support you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
I will certainly try to keep doing it. And you know what? When I've got some beautiful tequila, it certainly helps motivate me. So for everyone who's listening, you can find links and details about what we've discussed on the show notes page over at modernbarcart.com/podcast. And we'll also try to put together a list of U.S. markets where you can head on out to the liquor store and pick up a beautiful bottle of Casa Dragones tequila. And we will talk to you next time here on Modern Bar Cart. Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, there's two big things you can do for us here at Modern Bar Cart. One would be to tell your friends and family if you think they'd enjoy listening to us talk about cocktails. And if they don't download podcasts, they can always stream our episodes on their desktop directly from the show notes page at modernbarcart.com. The other thing you can do to help would be to head on over to iTunes or wherever you download your podcasts and leave us a review. 5 stars are great, but we're more interested in your feedback. And the beauty is, the more reviews we have, the easier it will be for other folks out there to learn about our show. We're trying to start a cocktail revolution here, and by spreading the word, you're helping us fight the good fight. You can always reach us by emailing podcast@modernbarcart.com if you're looking for cocktail or bartending advice, or if you're a pro who would like to pull up a mic and be interviewed for all to hear. Also, definitely follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Modern Bar Cart for cocktail porn, recipes, and entertaining tips. And keep an eye out for new product releases and special offers, which are happening all the time. We love our listeners, and we really enjoy giving you exclusive discounts and sneak peeks at our latest and greatest cocktail projects. This episode may be over, but for you, the mixological fun and adventures are just beginning, so remember, folks, drink responsibly and experiment boldly. This episode was produced by Edie Frederick, with editing and sound design by Samantha Reed, delicious tequila courtesy of Bertha González Nieves and Casa Dragones Tequila, and a little bit of interview magic by yours truly. This has been a Modern Bar Cart production, copyright 2020.